What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards here today to have a little NBA playoff chit chat. I just want to kind of talk today about the NBA playoffs and how my opinion on teams and players has kind of shifted so far as we're a round and a half in to this year's playoffs. There's been some interesting storylines so far. And that does tie into, the sports card market going forward and all that. But this will probably be more general sportsy with some loose threads into the card market. We'll see how it ends up turning out. But that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we dive in, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, all the YouTube nonsense down below. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's just kind of start at the top of this list and work our way down. I am not going to talk about every single team. The big one, let's start with the East. To me, the biggest storylines out of the East so far are Trae Young and Giannis, and to a lesser degree, the Nets and Tatum. Trae Young proving himself in the playoffs has been an absolute blast. Him and, for an upcoming player we're going to talk about, Ja Morant, seeing those two guys kind of prove themselves in their first playoffs. And I know the Grizzlies didn't win, but Ja looked the part of an NBA star in the playoffs for the games that he played, in my opinion. Now, Trae Young has looked better, and the Hawks have looked really good. And I've said multiple times that I think the Hawks do eliminate the 76ers in this round. I am recording this prior to Tuesday night's games being played. So anything that crazy happens Tuesday night, I don't know about it yet. But Trae Young's looked absolutely fantastic, and, looks like he could be a potential future superstar of the league. Ja looks fantastic. And really, that's kind of the overarching theme of this playoff so far, in my opinion, is this has quickly turned into here's the next generation kind of showing off. LeBron and AD got bounced. We still have Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the Nets, and we still have Leonard and George in for the Clippers. But beyond that, and I guess the 76ers, it's kind of the next wave. You have the Hawks team built around Trae Young. You have the Bucks with Giannis and whatever that mess is. You have Donovan Mitchell in Utah. Phoenix, which has been an absolute blast to watch. And Denver with the Joker and MPJ, but unfortunately no Jamal Murray. So you're starting to see kind of like, what is the league going to look like after the current crop of superstars kind of fades out? LeBron's getting up there. Steph Curry's getting up there. But it looks like the future's in good hands when you have guys like Devin Booker and Ja and Trae and Luka, who played out of his mind even though they lost in the playoffs, kind of waiting in the wings to take over. I've been very impressed with the young crop of talent so far in the league. In the East, the Hawks have been probably the most surprising and impressive team of all of them. Brooklyn, to me, is not surprising because this is kind of what we expected the Nets to do. I don't know that I expected them to go like a hot knife through butter in game 2 against the Bucks, but the Nets looking like the Death Star is not like super surprising, even without Harden. They play without one of the big three pretty much most of the year. Those guys kind of took turns missing time. But KD looks like an absolute monster. He looks like he is back and in full form from his Achilles injury. His stuff, card-wise, tying some cards into this, it just keeps falling. It does go to show you that performance does not equal profit, and a lot of his stuff was highly priced to begin with. So I think it's getting hurt a little harder during this correction period, or if you want to use the other C word. But I think at some point in time, his stuff's going to reach a buying point, and I think it's sooner rather than later. His Topps Chrome stuff is getting awfully cheap. Awfully cheap. And just kind of circling back, Trae and Ja have kind of showed me that, putting faith in them as longer term holds, it looks like it's going to turn out okay. Whether they get back to their peak values that they were a couple months ago, I don't know. No card may ever see those values again. Who knows? But in general, if you bought not in the last couple months, I think you're going to be okay on those guys long term. They both look fantastic. Tatum was the other one in the East that kind of looked like he kind of set himself apart into the next level. I've always been a big fan of Tatum, but his cards, a lot of people have been saying buy the dip on him. I don't know if we see much of a dip on him. I will be curious to see how much of a dip his cards actually go down. I'll be monitoring that closely on the Friday video when we kind of dig into actual card prices. But Tatum's the other one that kind of like established himself as, hey, I'm here and ready to maybe not necessarily be the face of the league, but like the next batch of, all-star slash all NBA first team, that sort of stuff once the current crop of guys kind of moves over a little bit. The Bucks look like a disaster and are probably going to have major changes in the offseason, mostly with their coach. Whether that solves everything, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if they also try to trade Chris Middleton, maybe. We'll see. Maybe they turn it around at home, look like a different team. But through 2 games, that's where I'm at with that team. Giannis has played okay. They just look like a completely different team against the Nets than they did the Heat. So I don't know how much of that is the Nets just being ridiculous and how much of that is the Bucks just sucking, or a little bit of both. So it is what it is. We'll see how that series ends up playing out. Dropping down to the West, I think Utah LA is going to be the series that is the most competitive this round. I could easily see that going 7 games, maybe that and the Hawks and the 76ers. Conley's not playing in game 1. That concerns me. I think they really need him, and they're going to need him in this Clippers series. I like the Jazz to win, but that was a little contingent on Conley being healthy, but I'll still take the Jazz there. The Clippers, they didn't Clipper in round 1. We'll see what happens now. Maybe they got that monkey off their back, and now they will be okay. The big thing that I've taken away in the West so far is we kind of talked about Ja already, kind of like showing himself that he's legit. That Memphis team's going to be super interesting. They are very young. They have tons of cap space, and they will be able to bring someone in if they want to. Now, this free agent class sucks, so they might not go out and make any big splash plays, but I think them just having this experience, getting another offseason of growth, getting a fully healthy Jaren Jackson Jr. back in the swing of things will make a big difference for that team. Dallas seems like a mess. Luka is absolutely ridiculous, and he has once again shown to me that he is very potentially the future of the league. That it very well could be him taking the crown from LeBron, KD, Steph, etc. as the superstar face of the league for a long period of time once those guys move out of the way. Luka is absolutely insane. He's one of the players that impressed me the most this series. He just got little to no help from Kristaps Porzingis. Tim Hardaway Jr. played great. Dorian Finney-Smith played pretty good. Maxi Kleber was hurt a little bit, just didn't look himself. The Porzingis thing is the biggest problem for them. I don't know what they do. Everyone on every NBA podcast is making fake trades for Porzingis. I just don't know where they're going to send them and what they get back that actually makes them that much better, or if it's just about getting off the money at this point. He has 3 years, $27 million per year left on his deal, I think it is. That's a lot. There's rumors about, maybe sending him to Cleveland for Kevin Love. That would be interesting. I don't know how I would feel about that as a Cavs fan. But they need to do something. It's clear that they are a star player short. Like, they need a Robin to Luka's Batman, and Porzingis is clearly not it. The shocking thing today, which this absolutely stunned me, and I guess it makes sense, but I forget what podcast I heard it on. They mentioned that Porzingis isn't even 26 years old yet. And it feels like he's been in the league for an eternity. I don't know why, but in my mind, I just feel like Porzingis has been in the league for like a decade. And that's just not the case. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it feels like he's been around for absolutely ever. I have no idea what the Mavericks do in the offseason, but they're going to do something. There is no way Cuban lets that team just stand pat and not do something. I have to imagine Porzingis is going to be the name we hear in the most trade rumors possible. Denver, Joker's looked absolutely amazing. MPJ has been pretty okay. He's been a little disappointing, but I think the Jamal Murray thing obviously doomed them. It was nice to see them get past the Trailblazers, but I think they met their match in the Suns. Portland is one of the most interesting teams in the offseason. I don't know what you do if you're that team. What would you guys do if you were Portland? Do you go 2K style and blow it up and trade Dame? Or do you just stay the course, make a move? Maybe you trade CJ, try to swap some parts around. I just don't see the path to Portland ever winning the Western Conference and making the finals. I don't. I don't know who you could trade McCollum and Nurkic for and whatever other pieces and parts to get someone in there to run next to Dame to get you over the hump. I just don't see what it is. I have no idea what it is. I think last year was probably their best shot, or maybe the year before. I just don't know where you go from here if you're Portland. I feel like you missed your window, and they kind of are what they are. So, if you're Portland, you have the decision of, okay, we could continue to be the 5th through 8th seed in the West every year with Dame. Probably sells tickets well, run a perfectly profitable business, but we're probably never making the NBA Finals. And then eventually Dame gets to the point where, he's not worth the money anymore. And now you're kind of stuck rebuilding the old fashioned way. Or do you bite the bullet, pull the plug, and say, okay, Dame to the highest bidder, young player, boatload of picks, CJ McCollum, young players, boatload of picks, and just sell off your various pieces and parts and hit a massive reset button. But, that's not an easy process. That's if someone that owns a team, that's a long process to go through of a lot of losing seasons to get back to where you are now. Um, so that's a tough one. I don't know what you do from a armchair quarterback GM. To me, I would say that you trade Dame and move on, but I don't own a team and I don't have ticket revenue to consider and all that stuff. But from an actual team building perspective, I almost think you got to blow it up. If your ultimate goal is to win an NBA championship, I don't think this team with Dame could ever get there. If your goal is to run a successful NBA franchise and make a profit every year, then you keep him. But I just don't know how you're ever above a 5 seed in the West. The West is just so loaded. Uh LA, I mean, injuries. LeBron looks old. I think he was still hurt from that ankle injury. AD can never stay healthy. If they were fully healthy, would they have beaten the Suns? I don't know. Because Chris Paul got hurt too for a hot minute there. So it's really hard to tell how that series plays out. I think the Suns still take them if both teams are 100% healthy. The Lakers team, in my opinion, was just kind of poorly constructed. So we'll see where they go. They're kind of screwed a little bit. I don't really know how they shake that team up much other than hope LeBron and AD are healthy every year. But they could be in for an interesting run here as LeBron gets late career. Phoenix, the other player that I have not mentioned yet that has absolutely surprised me the most this year in the playoffs and has kind of changed completely the way I look at him is Ayton. I mean, everyone's saying that. He's looked absolutely fantastic. I think he's been playing this way a lot of the season. Now that we're just seeing it on a national stage, he looks absolutely amazing. His card prices are super cheap because he's a big man. But if you could get into like some of his color or whatever for low point of entry, I don't think that that's a super risky play. Doesn't have a high ceiling because he's a big, but I don't see them losing to Denver at all. And to me, if Conley's not healthy and the Jazz lose to the Clippers, I could see the Suns coming out of the West. As of right now, prior to Tuesday's games being played, my pick would be the Suns to win the West, assuming Chris Paul can stay healthy and that shoulder doesn't bother him. They look amazing. They are a ton of fun. CP3 and Ayton are a blast. Yet Devin Booker is a blast. I love Mikal Bridges. I like Cam Johnson. That team is just so much fun to watch. And I think there's a real good chance they're your team coming out of the West. So Ayton's probably the one that has like really changed my perception of him as a player. Chris Paul's an interesting play card value wise. His stuff's cheap. I looked at it a while ago. His stuff is not expensive. Neither is Ayton's. Booker has seen a big rise lately. Mikal Bridges just got a big jump from the game last night, it looks like. I like him. I just don't know that he's ever more than like a super advanced role player, if that makes sense. But that team is an absolute ton of fun. I hope Conley gets right because I would really like to see Utah at full power against a full powered Phoenix team. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm just not a Clippers fan. It is what it is. So, but that's just some quick general thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far, kind of some players that have changed my mind, and some thoughts on the recently eliminated teams. Let me know what players have surprised you to this point. What teams surprised you, or are you like who are you looking at differently now, whether it's good or bad? That you're like, this guy really surprised me in a good way, or ugh, this guy or team really surprised me in a bad way, aka the Bucks. Um, but let me know in the comments down below. That's all I have for you guys and girls today. Like I said, just want to kind of talk about some NBA playoffs thoughts and some general thoughts on players and teams, those that are moving on and those that have recently entered off-season mode. I think this is going to be a very interesting NBA offseason with an absolutely loaded NBA draft class, according to the experts. So weak free agent class, though. That's the only thing that's going to be weird, which I wonder if that makes it that we see more trades than normal. We're already talking about the Mavericks wanting to make a ton of trades, the Trailblazers wanting to make a ton of trades. So it could be an interesting trade season. One more thing to think about. This was a good. I forget what podcast it was that I heard this on. I don't think it was the Low Post. Maybe it was Hoop Collective with Winhurst. I don't remember. But somewhere at some point in time, I saw this was probably Friday or Saturday. It might have been Twitter. I don't remember. Someone said, "Imagine Luca, but with the Hawks supporting cast instead of Trae Young." I just thought about that for a second, and man, how good would that team be? I'm not saying Trae's bad, but just imagine Luca on the Hawks with that supporting cast. Whew. Whew. But Trae's been a blast. I'm excited to watch that game tonight. To me, that's the exciting game tonight. Is that first game? Trae Young becoming the villain of the NBA has been a very fun story this NBA playoffs. So, but yeah, that's all I got for you guys and girls. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.